to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Quiet Warrior Show. I've got a very special guest on there, but I'm going to tease you because, well, I'm gonna make him fade away back into the green room for a moment. You might have knew that was going to happen. Everybody, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show. My name's Tom Dutta, your host, and well, we're live streaming today. What does that mean? Well, we're interrupting the airwaves and broadcasting on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. It's the next generation of broadcasting where you're literally peeking into the studio watching us. You'll get the bloopers and everything. I want you to go to the Tom Dutta YouTube channel and subscribe so you can get the advanced notification, because we're going to produce this into a video, a premiere video. We're also going to be putting it out there first as a podcast. So get on the Quiet Warrior Show wherever you find your podcast and subscribe so we can honor Mike's epic interview. But here's the thing. I like to bring guests on and tell you a bit about him, but I found something about Mike Ciorrocco. That's his name. He's a CEO of People Building, Inc., and the man behind What Are You Made Of? And that is why I called the show What Are You Made Of? There's something in Mike's bio that actually inspired me. It said fire lit in him at an early age. So I went, well, what is that? Did he smoke something, or what caused that? And all of us might have something that lights in us at an early age. So I have a little treat for you. I'm going to share with you a video that this man made. It's very powerful. I want you to watch it for a minute, and we'll bring Mike out from the green room. So stand by, everybody. Here we go.
I want to push people to share their stories, share their past experiences. And a lot of people don't do it, and there's 4 reasons why. One, people are embarrassed by their stories. They might have gone through a traumatic event, experience, and they're traumatized by it, or it's embarrassing, and they don't want to share it. And because they're worried about that view of people might have with them. The second reason is they feel alone in it. They feel like they're the only ones that went through it, nobody could relate, and that causes them not to want to share it with people. Number 3, they think no one will care. Like, why would anybody care about this story? Like, my story came from a broken home, and my dad giving up on me, man, and it's like, nobody really cares about that. Why would I share that? But I'm so wrong with that thought, and I started sharing that story. And the feedback that I get and the people that I'm touching and relating to now blows me away. So I have to push this message out to people because of what I'm seeing in return. And the number 4 reason that people don't share their story is they underestimate the power their story has to inspire millions of people. As simple as the story is, it doesn't have to be that I climbed Mount Everest, or I went to the moon, or I saved a life. Just an ordinary story that most people have. If you tell that story, people will relate to you. And then once you do that, and you have their hearts, you can help them. So those 4 reasons, think about that. If you're not sharing your story or sharing your past experiences because of those 4 reasons, get over that hurdle and just share it with one person and watch what happens.
All right. Are you vibrating in your chair, Mike Ciorrocco? Does that ever get old for you, sir?
No, actually, that was like almost 2 years ago. And man, it still hits me to think about that. You know, the fact that I didn't share my story prior to being in my 40s.
Yeah. I got to tell you, man, I fell in love with you and your story just by watching that video, because here's the thing about it. And then we'll get deep into that. I read something here, or made my notes as I was watching that broken home. Dad gave up on me. The power of the story. I never told it. Dude, your story is my story. And when somebody watches this, and I know we'll have thousands of people who will see this episode, you're going to unlock somebody's heart and say, I got a story to tell, but I'm just like Mike, and you're giving them hope, brother. So welcome from Ocean City, Maryland to my show. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. I always start every interview with gratitude. It's been such a big, impactful thing in my life. I know we hear about it all the time, but I live it. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank your audience for showing up.
Awesome. Well, this is exciting. So, this is all about the hero's journey. That's the narrative behind the show, which is funny because the hero's journey is about sometimes stuff happens in our lives and we hear a call to go on an adventure to figure out the meaning of it. I think you did. I'm going to put the spotlight on you. Tell us about just take us back where it started. Tell us about what that part of your life, the story of what lit you on fire, and also where the heck was that video film? Because man, I just want to be out there on the water.
Yeah, that was Miami, downtown Miami on the water there. And I love Miami, by the way. Like, I think we go places sometimes for inspiration. And that's a place where I went and it opened my eyes to a lot of things. So I go back there quite often, especially in the wintertime. But, I think we all need things to light us up. And I think sometimes we go through life and we are kind of drifting and roaming around and we're not lit up. And why not? Life is way too short to be not lit up. And I realized that over time, being around a lot of broken people growing up. I was around a lot of drug addicts and alcoholics and depression and, medication for anxiety and depression that people were on and overdosing on. And my grandmother ended up committing suicide later on in my teenage years. And, I just wasn't okay with people, the stories they were telling themselves. Just because they were accepting it, I didn't want to accept it. I was thinking that there's a better way. There's got to be a better way. And one of my coaches, went over a lesson one time with me about precedence versus principle, meaning living and operating based on the past versus living and operating on what the future holds. And so, I grew up in a broken home, as you mentioned. I don't remember my parents together. And in doing that, I witnessed a lot of things I probably shouldn't have as a kid. A lot of conflict over child support, custody battles. You had step parents into the mix and jealousy and their agendas. And a lot of stuff gets taken out on the kids or poured down on the kids. And, I just remember the fights that went on and the language that was used and the threats that were made. And, at 9 years old, I lived with my dad. After I was 8, I decided to leave my mom's house because she was moving on to her third marriage. And I didn't want to move into another man's house and learn another man's rules at that time. So I figured I'd give my dad's house a try full time. And he had just been moved on to a second marriage. And from 8 to 11, during that period of time, there was a lot of conflict going on. And I noticed that the adults weren't acting like adults. At a young age, I was able to recognize that. And I dealt with a lot of abuse in that household. And, at some point I realized, this isn't ordinary. I would go to other friends' houses and my friends' houses, see their parents, and whoa, you can be happy? Like, two parents can get along? Your mom and dad can live together? And so I realized that, and I told my mom about what was going on. That allowed me to share the story of what was going on, the abuse. And I used to sleep with my baseball bat at night. Think about this. 9 years old, having to sleep with your baseball bat, not because you were afraid of people outside the house coming in, but the people afraid of the people in the house.
Wow. Hey, Mike, I'm just going to jump into the story there for a minute, man. As I said up front, every time I listen to that video of yours or just hear you talking here, you're triggering stuff, man. You're triggering stuff. So I'll honor you and just say that it's a blessing, because when you're telling your story, here's the thing. I grew up in a home. I had a harder word for it, but I was the black and blue kid. My dad was a raging drunk, sloppy drunk. What stopped him from drinking was broadsiding a woman and child and almost killing her in his car. He lost my mother and all his 3 sons. He had multiple affairs, and he left home when I was 12. And when my dad drank, and add on to that command and control as a commanding officer, dude, I saw stuff I shouldn't have seen. And I've never been able to put it that way. But when I just heard you say that, I went, it's okay to say I saw stuff I didn't see. And one day over a beer, we'll be sitting maybe on the beach in Miami there, man. And I'll be telling you some of that stuff. And I'll be telling you why that became a superpower in my life to be to go out and do things differently. I want to finish with one last thing. I'll give it back to you that I did some research in my own journey, and they say 8 out of 10 kids or 8 of 10 people have some form of trauma in their background. If you listen to Oprah Winfrey, she'll suggest 9 out of 10. So here's the big question I always ask myself. If we're the 90%, then why do we think there's something wrong with us? Because we're the majority. And so if we're the majority, especially in the business world where I came from, I don't hear anybody talking about their backstory, because they cover it up, because it's too much to be vulnerable as weakness. And maybe there's a stigma around it. So the work you're doing, Mike, is amazing. Tell me about this "What Are You Made Of" movement. I think that's pretty cool. And you've got it on the wall back there.
Yeah, the "What Are You Made Of" is the name of the podcast that I started. But I started the podcast because I wanted people to share their stories because I noticed what the power of that was. And I noticed that this journey to success is often invisible. And people that are like entrepreneurs that want to go out and do something, or salespeople, or anybody that's out there wants to do something, and they see some person that they're inspired by, and they think that person just got there. It's like an overnight success, and they don't see the journey. So I wanted to bring that to light, expose that in a good way. And so I shared my story for the first few episodes. And then from there, I would bring people on that have had success in some arena or some vertical and allow them to, explain the ingredients that had gone into making them. And the what are you made of is something that I say to myself a lot. As a kid, going back to that story, when my mom found out about that abuse, she filed court papers and told me that I need to stick to my guns with this, because if she goes to file court papers, I can't leave her out hanging to dry. And people will try to talk you out of things you believe in and things that you want in life. And especially this scenario here, they're going to try to talk you out of it. You need to stick to your guns. And, I took that at that age, which was a great lesson for me, that if I believe in something, I got to go get it. People are sometimes not going to want you to go get it, but you got to keep going. And I found a word recently that I just love. I absolutely love. I was using stubborn for the longest time, and stubborn has a negative connotation, but stubborn means perversely unyielding. And this new word that I found, inexorable means unyielding or unable to be stopped. And so I just get chills when I think about that. When you want something, you got to go get it. And so when she filed the court papers, eventually they got delivered to my dad after weeks of waiting and very tense moments. And my dad got served. And when he got served, I'm sure he felt betrayed. A lot of times when abuse is going on, it's not admitted to or maybe even noticed that it's happening. And he confronted me about it. And I just remember my mom saying, stick to your guns. And when she did that, that resonated with me, to not get into discussion with him when he confronted me and told me that my mom was poor and there's men coming in and out of the house. And why would you want to go there? And I just confirmed that. And by the way, at the time, my dad was my hero.
Yeah.
He had his own masonry business, big forearms, rough hands, man. You could tell he was a hard worker if you shook his hand. And he carried a wad of $100 bills around and with his pocket instead of a wallet, right? And I always looked up to him for that. So when I confirmed that I wanted to leave, he took that wad of $100 bills out that he used to flash and I looked up to him for, peeled one off, crumpled it up and threw it at me and said, well, then here, you're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother. And that's the spark that I mentioned earlier at a young age that was lit. For 30 some years, I've been driving off of that.
Wow. I just did go on journeys in my mind, and I just went back and I'm visualizing that $100 bill being thrown. They say, Mike, that, this is what I believe anyway, that people have so much pain sometimes in their life. And as Campbell says, they hear a call to adventure, but many don't answer it. And there's usually a defining moment. And that seems like your defining moment. I want to ask you this, because it's been something I've struggled with all my life, that I've done a lot of learning on brain science, and just up to maybe age 12, 13, our brain takes in most of what we hear as facts, and it wires it into the unconscious, what are neural nets, or I call them thinking patterns. So I'm just going to follow my sword here and riff with you that, when 3 of my 4 family members called me fat, called me ugly, my dad, I could only get his attention when I achieved A+, or I wrote a book report so he could brag to his friends, that the things that were wired in me stayed with me as I went into the corporate America world as a leader. I started failing when I became a CEO, because what I didn't realize is that those things were wired and they were playing over and over. So I was tearing down my success. I'd look in the mirror and I couldn't see a guy look good. And even when I married my wife, the same situation. I wouldn't take my towel off coming out of the bathroom. I'm saying this publicly, being vulnerable. It's like the power of words matter. I love that inexorable word you came up with. But tell me a little bit, and then get into your book, because you wrote this book that you got behind it there. Tell me what did you do to unwire some of that crap that plays over? And I bet we still have that playing sometimes. What have you done to get through that? And then take us into the book you wrote. And then, of course, you're in business today, actually using your gift to do something for other people. Tell us more about all that.
Yeah, so I drove off of that moment for a long time, and everything I did, I tried to be the best. I try to be, the most effort and the hustler. And so, but I was lucky at 11 when I went back to my mom's house. There was a guy named George. It was her third husband that I didn't want to move in with at first. And he ended up being a savior to me in a way, because at that age, at a young, impressionable age of 11, I needed someone to set me straight, to make sure I went on the right path, to learn how to respect, show up, be dependable and reliable, and how to treat a lady. He told me that, if you do good things happen. You do bad things happen. It was very binary, and it made it easy and simple to understand.
Yeah.
And so his name was George. He passed away in 2019 of a sudden heart attack, but he was a phenomenal guy. Not very good with making money, but he knew how to stretch a dollar a long way. And he was just a good dude. And I was fortunate to have him in my life. So that kind of gave me the pathway to take all of that and use it as fuel for my future and to be a hero for someone else. And so that's what kind of got me on track. Now, as far as the book, Rocket Fuel, a couple years ago, I was going through a tough time in business, and
just hold it up there, Mike. Show us that beautiful cover.
Yeah.
Everybody, the book is called Rocket Fuel. Just say the full title there.
Rocket Fuel: Convert Setbacks, Become Unstoppable. And Grant Cardone, if you know Grant, he wrote the foreword for the book, and
Fantastic.
he talks about what that rocket fuel law means to him in his life. And
we'll come back to that at the end and let you give it a plug where people can get it. But I'm going to ask everybody to do this as a fellow author. Authors get known by reviews, everybody. So I'm going to encourage you to get the book. I want you to read it. I want you to mark it up. I want you to connect back with Mike and say what this one thing you said has given me that flame and that hope. We'll go on Amazon, Goodreads.com, write a review for it, and make it stick so people can see that book worldwide. Mike, tell us a bit about the book. There's some things in there that obviously were from how life not defined but shaped you as a man.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, I decided that I needed to do a little bit of self-assessment because I was elevating my life. My graphs were going on an upward trajectory in all areas of my life. And despite circumstances, despite setbacks, discouragements, screw ups of my own, despite all that, I kept going up. And I was like, I got to figure this out because it doesn't seem normal to me, And so I figured out what I was actually doing is, Tom, I was taking everything that would stop somebody or slow them down, and I was storing it in my tank instead of my trunk, where most people store it. Most people store it in their trunk and it weighs them down and they complain and play victim. I was putting it in my tank and converting it into rocket fuel for my future. And I say rocket fuel because that's the only thing I know that can get us into outer space, away from gravitational pull. And that's where we all want to be at some point. We want to get away from the negativity and the toxicity. So I named it Rocket Fuel. Of course, my last name's Ciorrocco, so it kind of has a nice little alignment there. And when I wrote the book, I wanted to put the formula in there that I found to become an unstoppable, and the mentorship that I took under Grant and many others, and share how this all came about. Because to me, as I went on this journey, I committed to people that were initially listening to me that I was going to share everything I went through on my journey to where I'm going, because I already know where I'm going. I have a clear picture, clear vision. I'm committed and I'm consistent going towards that. So I just wanted to share that journey so far. And one thing I will tell you, Tom, is that after I wrote the book and published it, it went bestseller the first day because we had a great pre-sale marketing campaign. After I wrote that, I came up with this thought from talking to my coach, Richard Dolan. Richard Dolan is a great friend and coach of mine and mentor. That at some point in life, you cross this line, whether, maybe it's a line of demarcation, where you stop feeding off the toxicity and negativity of the past. Your engine becomes a high performance engine instead of an old cheap car engine. And at some point, you cannot use that toxic fuel anymore. It doesn't work. It's not as effective. It's not as clean. So you need a higher performance fuel. That higher performance fuel is the future that you're creating for yourself. The cause and creation of a future that you can do now because of the confidence in the engine that you've become. So at some point you get to that point where you're like, okay, I don't need to use that stuff anymore. Great. It happened. I acknowledge it. It's lost its charge on me. And now I'm being pulled forward or thrusted forward. I have a saying, thrust is a must. We got to be moving forward and fast. And it's pulling you forward, this future that you're creating for yourself. And that's the stage where I'm in now. And I didn't write that in the book because I wasn't in that stage when I was writing the book, but I think that's, a good follow-up.
Yeah, well, I hear a book 2.0 definitely coming there, Mike. You probably know this, Ciorrocco. I mean, come on, Italian a little bit there. We talked offline. I'm married to a Romanelli, and I get the culture. As I said to you, 25 years ago when I walked up the back stairs of the typical Italian house, everybody congregates around the big table, the plastic on top of the table, the damigens of wine, the sausages, the food. Man, I was coming up the stairs, and it sounded like 50 people in the room. And then when I went around the corner, there was like 6.
Yeah.
And they thought I was Sicilian, and man, were they ever right? Because I think I got part Italian blood in me. I love that. Here's the interesting thing about what you said in the rocket fuel. I love it that I discovered that you can't have a positive and negative thought at the same time. Your brain can't hold it, and most of the things. Funny you say that, Mike. It's so everybody. It's a teaching moment on the show. Go back and listen to this. Mike said something about having a mentor, and I honor that, Mike. I love that. And here's the thing. I grew up, and they say if you lose your father, for example, you find somebody to replace that to mentor you. Well, dude, I went into corporate America, started climbing the ladder fast. I said this in a talk I did recently. I said I was a self-worth chaser, not a success chaser.
Yeah.
So I was climbing, biggest paycheck, had to have this nice house. What I realized is I was searching for the acceptance and the love of my father that I never got. And so I found mentors, but you know what? They were like other executives, leaders in business, but in the private cone of silence when you're coaching or when you're with them, I'll say that they had blood on their shirt. The stories would come out about the affairs, the wife's not happy with me, the drinking. And I went, man, there's people all over the world leading the world forward who are just like me. They're broken. They ain't talking about it. I got to find a way. So, I found a little bit in one mentor I denied before. That was God. That's my faith. That, when I was in business, you have a coach. Well, God's my coach. And then I had to go find other people. That's when I started noticing guys like you. And you and I are now connected for life, Mike. We're on a mission and a journey parallel, but I can learn from you. So everybody get Mike's book. I'm plugging it, but Rocket Fuel, but connect to Mike. Even if you watch his stuff, he can be a mentor to you, even if you're not there yet. I want to turn it back to you with this thought and let you riff on it. That I didn't, 3 months before my dad died. It's funny you said George died in 2019, and I'm not laughing. I don't know why I just did that. Maybe it's the nerves.
No, that's fine.
But it's the emotional stuff. I was estranged from dad all my life, and God or someone put me in front of him in a Starbucks to have coffee because I withheld him from my granddaughter for a decade, and I was feeling shameful about a lot of things. But I guess Dad and I met. And I said, Dad, tell me about your childhood. Dude, what I found out was my father's father died in front of him from alcohol poisoning. I never knew him. My dad was pushed off a bridge in Fiji. That's how he learned to swim. And then he went in the army and he became a bad dude. But man, his life was a train wreck. It was traumatic. So what happened? He brought all that into parenting me. And when I finally understood, it was like looking in the mirror at my father, a mirror of my own childhood. I went, there was forgiveness and understanding. Now, I didn't forgive the bad behavior because I still have scars, but I love my dad. And what you said, man, everybody, this is a teaching moment. We got to love you and honor you. What you said about using what happened as rocket fuel and your dad was your hero. My dad was my hero. In fact, he died 3 months after we agreed to meet for coffee. I never had the next coffee, unexpectedly from a heart attack. God took him, but he passed the torch. And I remember at that point saying, my dad was, when I did the eulogy, he was going into prisons and doing meditation groups. He was 23 years dry under AA. I didn't know that. So he became my hero. So I learned a lot from you today, Mike, about taking that and doing something with it. I want to give it back to you just on that. And that, how did you find forgiveness or whatever it is you did to turn your father and all that stuff that happened into the rocket fuel? And how do you speak of him today when you're speaking publicly?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't get to see my dad. I went through about 10 or 11 years without seeing him after that time where I left the house at 11. And we had another relationship after that, got together. It was just like old days, man. And I enjoyed him, being around him. And I love being around him.
Yeah.
And let me make it clear, he was never abusive to me. So just to clarify, it was not him. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But there was another issue that came up that is totally out of left field with my wife and his wife. And my wife had no involvement with it. So it's like, it was just so I don't get to see him. And he's accepting of that, I guess, because he doesn't reach out, even though I do.
Yeah.
I don't, to me, I understand. I don't take things personally.
Yeah.
I understand that there's things going on in people's minds, and you mentioned the brain and how the brain works. And I'm a firm believer that there's things going on in people's minds that subconsciously they don't even know they're doing. So I don't take it personally, and I don't hold a grudge. If I saw him today, I'd give him a hug and have a beer with him. And that's just the way I am. I don't hold baggage like that. Remember, I don't keep things in my trunk. But what I do feel is that I do feel that his parents, who've passed away, obviously my grandparents, would not be proud right now. And that bothers me a little bit. And it bothers me because I would love to coach my dad. I would love to help assist him.
That's cool.
But I don't get to see, he doesn't get to see my kids. My kids don't know him, and that's just part of the game, I guess, of life and where we are right now. And I don't have anything bad else to say. I just tell the story and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. And that's a part of your story I just learned. And that's really why I needed to meet you and others need to meet you, because I was in a space maybe 5-6 years ago where you are today with my own dad. It was just really, I didn't want to connect for various reasons. Like you have your own reason. And it took relationships and getting that stuff outside of me and putting it in, as you say, not my trunk, that saying you use, but putting it somewhere else and realizing that in order to love other people and serve them, I got to get past that. So I honor that. One of the things I do see about you, and it's pretty clear, dude. I mean, you're a good looking dude, but man, there's this powerful feeling about you, and it's a combination of charisma. My dad was like that, very charismatic, but there's this aura. I'm not BSing you here, that people want to be around you. They want to talk to you. And I read something in your bio, and I'll finish with this. It was about you're consumed with your passion to help people break free from the confines of complacency and propel to untapped levels of success. You built a mortgage company. I hope I'm saying this right. You were recognized by Yahoo, featured as one of the top business leaders to fall in 2020. Dude, this is amazing. And so give us a few nuggets just from the book or whatever you're doing to weave your passion and power from your story into the workplace to helping build that.
Yeah. So I'm really cognizant and recognizing the feeling that I get from my heroes, I call them. People that are exemplifying ways to live life the right way. People that have helped me in dark times. I love that feeling that I had, and that feeling needs to be shared. So what I do is every day I wake up, I try to say, whose hero can I be today? Not out of ego. I think some people take me, I'm very strong and loud, and I put a lot of content out. And I think sometimes people can get intimidated by that. And I move very fast. And I think sometimes people, when I move fast, it seems to me they're moving slow, but they're living their life. And I think that really what it comes down to, it's not out of ego. It's about, I want people so bad to feel the feeling that I've had from my heroes. And I didn't realize this until I got into my 40s. And I feel inside that I have a shorter window, Tom. And because of that, I act with urgency. I act with speed. Like I said, thrust is a must. And my goal every day is to see how valuable I can possibly be. Like, what's the max amount of everything I can give, man?
I'm just writing that down on my paper. Thrust is a must. So many phrases you've coined that one I love, man. Thrust is a must. That's what I was going to say. That's what I meant to say to you, is that there's a powerful motive that comes out of you. You can tell that you don't get stuck in negativity in the past. Even when we talked about our fathers, you just kind of were able to talk through that, move on. So I think that's amazing. Just want to do a couple things as we move to wrap up here, Mike, that we got your book and we got all the things that you do. Just take a moment to tell everybody where they can get a hold of you and connect to all of your platform and get to know you.
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the puppy that's outside barking. We're in a world right now where everybody's home a lot. So anyway, yeah, so Rocket Fuel's available on my website, mikeciroc.com/book. So you can get it there or Amazon. I just put up the e-version, so it's available on Kindle finally, and I'm working on the audio. But Tom, one thing, if you don't mind me saying, I got into tech somehow. I fell into the tech space, and I'm not a techie. I'm a non-tech entrepreneur, but I've met a guy through Instagram. And I just want to throw this out there to encourage people that, we got a tech product that's coming out. It's called Blueprinted, and it's spelled BLOO printed. And I'm very proud of this because, all my life, I've tried to figure things out on my own. And I've finally got mentors who gave me the step-by-step process to where to go. But I don't see a platform out there to show people in every vertical that they would wish to learn success from, somebody showing exactly step-by-step how to accomplish something in an algorithmic format, a project management based software. And we've come up with a product for this. And I just want to encourage everyone, if you ever see an idea or think of an idea, please believe that it's possible for you to be the founder or the creator of something like this. You just need to be around the right people. And, as far as reaching out for me for my book, or if you have an idea or want to run something by me, I encourage you. I'm very accessible. Instagram, LinkedIn, please reach out. Most people say that they love the people to reach out. I sincerely want you to reach out to me so that I can connect with you and have some kind of impact on your life.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Mike. We love the little puppy there. Forgot to ask you the name. And that's what this is we're in a new generation here where everything is on stage. I just want to honor you with a couple things before we wrap up, and we'll give you the last word before we let you go. And the first one is that I've honored you with some leadership words. I do this on every show. They're not scripted. I'm madly writing notes. And the first one is courage. And I've got a slash, and the word you gave me, exonerable. I hope I said that right. Amazing. Number 2 is inspiration. No question. You inspire me. Number 3 is power, dude. The motive of power in what I learned and teach is not bad or good. It's getting from A to B, getting things done. You get shit done, man. And the last one's love. It comes out of you. Different people express love in different ways. There's something about you I can't quite tell you yet, but I'll figure it out and how to tell you when I see you. But you've got that as a strength. You can show vulnerability as a leader, which makes you real. And I want to just leave you with something personal on that when we talk about our dads, I saw the inflection and the change in you. And they say when you get close to a hard issue, you see that. And so I will walk with you for the rest of my life and share our stories of our dad sometime to keep us both rocketing forward, buddy. So now, if you want to unmute your mic and don't worry about the dog there, I want to induct you. You're getting an award today. They may not have told you this, but you're going to be inducted into the Quiet Warrior Tribe. Now, the Quiet Warrior Tribe, if you look on the screen behind me, there's a guy I know. That's actually a challenge coin. These coins were minted and handcrafted and painted in the United States. I'm going to full screen me for a minute as I talk about that. These were created in World War I. Soldiers used to carry them and commit to each other in service. If you showed up, didn't have yours, you'd maybe buy drinks. Today, they're used around the world for community. I had a vision of bringing people to the show like you who are making an impact. And by receiving it, you commit to continuing the journey that you have of making people's lives better and moving yourself forward. The back of the coin has the narrative of the hero's journey as well. So welcome to the tribe, Mike.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that, man. It's an honor. Thank you very much.
I always say on a planet of 8 billion, there's really only 50 of these that I give out a year, and they're now in over 14 countries. And just know when you hold it, that everybody in the tribe is speaking to each other, where we're becoming that force. So on that note, I'll give it to you for any last words.
Yeah, and I don't like to correct people, but the word was inexorable.
It's okay.
So yeah, let me spell that just so everybody's clear, because it's a great word, and feel free to look it up. It's INEXORABLE, inexorable. And matter of fact, when I first read it and I was speaking about it a lot, I was mispronouncing it. I was saying something else. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I want to leave you with this thought, and I want to challenge everyone, no matter what stage you are in your life right now, whether you're just getting started on something, you've been in it a long time, no matter what age you are, I want to encourage you to start thinking about playing a bigger game. I think that we all get set in our ways and we wake up every day and let life live us at times. And I want to make sure that everybody understands that there's a bigger game in all of us. And we are put on this planet with unlimited potential. Our potential is not static. As you increase, it keeps rising. And I just want to encourage everyone, look for that. Go look and see how much you can accomplish. You know, we would be naive to think that we were put on this planet with unlimited abilities, not physical necessarily, but intellect and spiritual. And so I just want to leave everyone with that challenge today, and to be unstoppable.
Be unstoppable. And I'll learn that word. I'll practice it. So next time I talk to you, I won't screw it up. It's a great word, by the way. Everybody get the book that Mike has told us about, Rocket Fuel. Get it. Please go online, do a review for it so we can get his work known around the world. Connect with Mike for anything at all. And find the true purpose and passion like you hear Mike has. Live the life that you deserve and desire. And everybody, you look for the Quiet Warrior Show podcast and the video premiere of this epic interview with the great Mike C-Roc Ciorrocco. Mike, see you on the beach, man.
Thank you, Tom. Take care, buddy.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca